No more gathering of tears, no more hopeless empty fears. Never again, never again, never again.
This may date me and a few others in the room, but do you recall that public service announcement on TV a couple decades ago that urgently shared, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste"? Right? Remember that one? A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Well, when it comes to standard pain management, the mind is often overlooked, even wasted, as a means to help control how much one suffers. But reframing how we mentally see our chronic pain, we can give lightness to the dark, project positive meaning onto an experience that is typically seen as tragically senseless. Now, to speak about the therapies that provide this reorientation is psychologist Dr. John Sorrell. Dr. Sorrell specializes in behavioral medicine with an emphasis in chronic pain management. He became part of the interdisciplinary, oh God, see, I should never write words I can't pronounce. Okay, team at Stanford University. You'll say it when you get up here. Okay, Medical Center, Pain Management Medical Center in September of 2009 before moving on to full-time private practice in 2012 at Behavioral Health Psychology Services in South San Francisco, California. Currently, Dr. Sorrell is the founder and director of the Chronic Pain Psychology Center. Through cognitive, behavioral, and acceptance and commitment therapies, Dr. Sorrell assists individuals to loosen the grip of chronic pain, struggle less, and to live more freely. That sounds fantastic. So, without further ado, please help me welcome to the 2014 Women in Pain Conference, Dr. John Sorrell.
So I can't tell you how happy I am and excited and honored to be here as part of this conference to share with you some of the things that I've learned along the way in my career. I think it was on a Sunday, I don't remember the exact date, but Cynthia called me and my phone rang and I had just pulled into my driveway and she introduced herself and said, "Hey, we want you to come speak at this conference." And I thought, who? Me? Well, why would you want me to speak? I'm just this psychologist in South San Francisco who thinks maybe occasionally he knows something about pain and maybe he knows how to help people, but I don't know. But I was overwhelmed and very excited to be offered this opportunity. So thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to be talking about acceptance and what that basically means and how it's applied to chronic pain and its treatment. I'd like to start off by saying, we're all in this together. Whether you have pain, chronic pain, acute pain, or some other form of pain, whether it's anxiety or depression, maybe you at times feel guilt or shame or some other emotional experience. Everybody in this room and outside of this room experiences what I'm going to be talking about today. It just so happens I'll be talking a lot about pain specifically. So I'd like to invite you just for a very quick moment to think within yourself about things that you struggle with, whether it's pain or whether it's some other type of experience. And you don't have to share this with anyone, but I just want you to keep this in the back of your mind as I'm speaking today to have something specific in your own experiences to apply the information and the things that I'm going to be talking about. So this is just a couple of letters that form words that basically becomes a question when you put them all together. In context, it probably doesn't mean a whole lot. I'm going to share something with you here in a moment that later on will be part of my presentation. It's exceptionally important that you all listen to me right now. If you take nothing else from this presentation, I want you to know the answer to this question. Does anybody, by chance, just by show of hands, does anybody know what the numbers are? Has anyone ever been asked this question? Okay. Oh, no, that was just the flash. I thought you were raising your hand. So I've decided, where's Ray Dean? Is she in the room? Ray Dean, the artist that did the pictures? Okay, she doesn't know this yet, but I volunteered her beautiful piece of artwork to the person that remembers the numbers later on in my presentation, the first one that shouts it out. You're going to get this beautiful painting. Now, if she has a problem with that, which she might because she's not here and she doesn't even know anything about this, I've got an alternative prize for you. So behind the podium here, I have a briefcase that's filled with $1 million. So the first person to shout out the answer to this question is going to win, okay? So does anybody not really want that prize? Raise your hand if you're not interested in $1 million. Okay, that's everybody you want to, all right, great. Okay, so what are the numbers when I say that later on in the presentation? You're going to say 1, 2, 3. Now that's not very difficult, but I have to be very, very certain that everybody knows this answer. So I can't go on until you all reflect back to me what the answer to this question is. So let's all do it together. So one more time, what are the numbers?
1, 2, 3.
Awesome. You guys are great. But I'm hard to convince. I need to know one more time, just in case so there's not an inkling of doubt in my mind that I know that you guys know, because I got all this money, I got to give it away to somebody, some lucky person out here. So one more time together, really, really loud though, because I think the people that are not here, that are on the internet watching this, they want to hear you really, really loud. Okay, so one more time, what are the numbers?
1, 2, 3.
Awesome, all right, you guys are great. So that's the answer. So what am I going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about what the fundamental underpinnings of cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy are, and specifically talk about them in context with chronic pain. I'll differentiate some of the tools or the strategies that are used in cognitive behavioral therapy from those that are used in acceptance and commitment therapy for chronic pain. And finally, I'll discuss how failed attempts to control things like pain can sometimes lead to increased suffering. And that's really what this talk is about, is trying to minimize the suffering, and that is where acceptance comes in. Now, I've got a variety of these different little side stories. As you can tell, I can't just cut to the chase and tell you because I've got all this time and I've got to fill it, and so I want you to have fun, I want you to laugh a little bit, so I'm going to share a story. It's a personal story. It's a story about this superhero. Does anybody you can yell it out. We're in, it's Batman, right? Everybody agree that it's Batman? It's not Spider-Man, it's not Superman, this is Batman. But it's not just any old Batman. This is Batman action figure with spring-loaded grappling hook. And to a 7-year-old boy, this is the best, coolest, greatest toy ever. And this is a toy that I had when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I only just remembered this story maybe a month or so ago. But I thought this is going to be a great story to kind of illustrate very early on in my presentation about what acceptance is. So I had this toy. I don't remember where I got it. It was a birthday gift. Maybe it was a holiday present or something like that. And I played with it all the time. And one day I lost it. I had no idea where it was. Has anyone ever lost a toy or something that you really, really, really love? So you know that feeling. It's like in your heart, it's in your belly, it hurts. It's like, wow. So I was looking, searching everywhere, all around the house, around the backyard, the side yards. I used this grappling hook to shoot it, and it'd wrap around the limbs on the trees and on the bushes, and this little Batman would swing around. And so it was so much fun to play with. I had lost it. I was devastated. I was so upset. And I probably looked for hours. And I don't know what the trigger for this next part was, but all of a sudden, I think I was looking in this one bush, digging, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to find this. I've looked everywhere I could possibly find this action figure. Well, not just any action figure. It's Batman action figure with spring-loaded grappling hook. And this thought came across that said, you know what, wherever it is, that's where it is. And this wave of warmth just sort of came over me, and I felt, huh, okay. 7 or 8-year-old boy goes on and I played with some other action figure, I don't know what it was. But I never like struggled with it anymore. It was just this realization that it's gone, wherever it is, that's where it is, and it's going to be there, and if I find it, I find it, if I don't, I don't. It's just an interesting experience. I didn't think like, 30-some years later, I'd be standing on a podium talking about this. I had no idea, but that was my first experience with this concept of acceptance. So, for those of you who are not familiar with what chronic pain psychology is and what we do, the goal, well, there's a couple of goals. One is we want to help reduce pain and the symptoms that come along with pain. We also want to optimize an individual's psychological functioning in the context of having chronic pain, assist other disciplines. That's where the interdisciplinary, where's John? That fancy word comes in, interdisciplinary team approach to managing pain comes in. We want to help other disciplines increase physical functioning by helping out with these psychological variables, all to improve the quality of life of an individual. And there's a lot of data supporting cognitive behavioral therapy as well as other therapies to help people reduce psychological distress and to improve the quality of their life through managing these symptoms. I'm not going to go through a lot of the data today because I want to kind of share with you other things, but within cognitive behavioral therapy, the goal is to reduce pain, to help a person learn how to manage stressors better, and to learn how to solve problems that they may encounter more effectively, to control their attention, to identify and restructure maladaptive thinking patterns. And this is a strategy that's called cognitive restructuring. You may learn a variety of different relaxation strategies, whether it's progressive muscle relaxation, guided imagery, diaphragmatic breathing, all towards increasing self-efficacy. So your ability or your belief that you have the ability to make a difference, to change something that is uncomfortable, that is stressful, that's a problem, so that you can reach the goal of controlling these problems in the context of chronic pain. That's what cognitive behavioral therapy is. We want you to use control strategies to make this problem less a part of your world. And there's nothing wrong with this. Like I said, there's a lot of data showing that these strategies help people to manage symptoms and to control pain. But sometimes that very attempt to control something that isn't actually working can become a problem, particularly when it's the dominant focus without success. This is the key word, without success. So I was privileged enough to meet Ed and the editor of the website for the National Pain Report, Pat, and he shared with me some of the slides, and I was looking at one of them. The question is, which, if any, of these alternative treatments have helped relieve your pain? And there's a number of different treatments: massage, acupuncture, medical marijuana, meditation, chiropractic, and so on and so forth. Some helped some people, some didn't help others. But there was like I think Ed said, 1 in 3, none have helped at all. So at some point, maybe nothing's going to work. Maybe there's some things that work a little bit, and maybe there's things that help more. But whatever's left over, you still have, and you have to figure out what you're going to do with it next. And so if it's the dominant focus, though, and it's not helping, it becomes a problem, especially when it leads to unwanted side effects. So how many people have taken medication for pain? A lot of people. How many people have had side effects? A lot of people. How many people have used this logic, myself included, if this much works and that's helping to reduce pain, then maybe if I take a little bit more, then that will help that much more. Logically, it kind of makes sense, but it can lead to problems, right? So when the efforts are leading to unwanted side effects, control becomes a problem, all of which moves an individual away from the things that make their life important to them. So if it takes them out of their life, and what I mean by that is the very thing you're trying to do to control the symptoms, if that's taking you out of your life, then control is absolutely a problem. And I would say maybe there's a different approach that needs to be used to address this concern. So I don't have chocolate cake for you guys, I'm sorry. But I have a little exercise just to kind of illustrate this point. So I want you guys to close your eyes, and whatever you do, do not think of chocolate cake, okay? Especially if you really, really love chocolate cake with a side scoop of vanilla ice cream. This is a picture, keep your eyes closed. This is a picture of a double chocolate triple layer cake that is delicious, just came out of the oven with the icing. And so I'm going to give you 3 seconds to not think about chocolate cake. Okay, now open your eyes. Raise your hand if you were successful. Okay, just blurt out. What did you think about instead? Chocolate pie. All right, that's good. What else? M&Ms. What's another one? Okay, so what did you not think about? And how did you know you didn't think about that? What were you not supposed to think about? Okay, so how do you know you didn't think about it? The only way you know you didn't think about it is to think about it. So this is kind of like one of those things, like, it's hard, I don't know. So how about if I was your pain psychologist and your first day you meet me, I say, oh, hello, welcome to my clinic. Very nice to meet you. Oh, you know, what we need to do is we need to control the way you think. We need to control your thoughts about pain. You know what? Stop thinking about pain. Whatever you do, don't think about pain. Okay, great. That's not going to work very long. What about this? How many people in this room woke up this morning, your alarm went off, and you're like, oh, how about one more hour of sleep? Well, when the alarm goes off, you got to get up, and you say to yourself, well, maybe I should get up. Maybe it's probably the adult thing to do. But you know what? I don't really want to. It's cozy in here, and but you're a professional. You know, you really should. You got to give a presentation. You got to prepare. But I really don't want to. This is like, actually, I don't know if you guys have ever stayed at the DoubleTree. It's an incredible hotel. The beds are very comfortable, and before you know it, you're caught up in this like struggle of I shouldn't. What am I going to do? And if this struggle pulls me away from the things that I really need to do, this is a problem. I call this control within the skin because, you know, if we don't like stuff outside of us, it's easy to change it. You know, if I said, hey, John, Cynthia, this is a really well laid out room, but I think we should move the tables a little bit. Maybe if we had more M&Ms on the table, we would all be happier. Like, maybe we should change this around a little bit. But when it comes to stuff inside, it's harder to do that. Don't think about chocolate cake. Don't think about pain. You know what? Don't feel anxious about the fact that you have an all-day conference where you're going to be sitting down. Well, that might hurt. So what do we do about that? If this leads to experiential avoidance, which I'll define for you, is a behavior pattern in which attempts are made to control or suppress contact with undesirable private events. When you try to get rid of something that's inside the skin and avoid it, the attempts to do that is what we refer to as experiential avoidance. And pain is everywhere. You know, I forget the exact statistic, but at some point in a person's life, like over 80% of people are going to have pain or chronic pain. And it's an experience that's ubiquitous. But the part that isn't necessary is suffering. And that's what I hope by the end of this talk I've at least helped you to at least have a thought that maybe that's true. Maybe it's an option. Maybe there are other things that I can do that help me to suffer less with whatever pain you have left over after you've tried all the treatments, all the alternative treatments that maybe help 20% or 30%. If you still have 5 or 10 or 15 or 80 or 90 or 100% of your pain left over, maybe there's a way to reduce the suffering. So if your pain doesn't change, this is for all you mathematicians in the audience. If your pain's a 10 and you multiply it by your struggle to fight it, and your struggle to fight, you're strong, you're tough, you're not willing to give back down or to give up, and you fight it at a 10, what's 10 times 10? Right? It's high, it's 100. So 10 times 10 is 100. If you were to make the product of this 0, but you couldn't change the pain, so pain is 10 times, what does it have to be times for it to equal 0? It has to be 0. So in order for suffering to be 0, if your pain doesn't change, if your resistance to the pain, the only way to make that suffering less is to lessen your struggle with it. Okay? So pain times resistance equals suffering. Suffering is defined as an exacerbation of the problem that results from repeated unsuccessful attempts at direct control over private events such as thoughts, emotions, or physical sensations. Okay, so that's, remember, the definition of experiential avoidance. This is the product of that. Now, there's a way that some psychologists have come up with a theory to think about this and understand it. So I'm not going to bore you too much with all of the intricate stuff. What's more important to me is that you see how this works, so that you understand when a pain psychologist like myself sits down with you to talk about the things that you're struggling with, you kind of at least grasp an understanding or basic understanding of how this is possible, that you could sit and struggle, and how a really smart person who's got great doctors and incredible family and support and conferences like this where you're learning a lot, but you can still have pain and you can still struggle. And it's 2014, and people say, a lot of times they come to my office, how is it that we still can't measure pain? We used to get ask me like a 0 to 10 scale, and we have all this technology. Well, that's just the reality of what it is. But this theory explains why many of the tools we use to solve problems can actually lead to suffering. The way that it kind of talks about this is through the influence of networks of what's called mutual relations that form relational frames. And that's going to be the basis for how and why a lot of this stuff, this suffering, can occur. And they allow us to learn without direct experience. Okay? So if I showed you this picture and I said to you, this is a lion, can you say? You would say lion, right? And if I said the picture of this lion right here goes roar, you would say roar. Okay? So this would be a learned relation. So you would learn that this picture, it's called a lion. And this picture says roar. Okay? You've learned that. And a derived relation is, well, if I said you point to the picture of the lion, you would point to this out of a whole bunch of other pictures. And if I said to you, point to the picture that goes roar, you would point to this. Now, this is a learning pattern that is not uniquely human. You can train rats, you can train pigeons, you can train other animals to do this kind of thing. But what makes this learning process uniquely human is this derived relation. Is if I were to say to you, what does the lion say? You would say roar, even though you didn't have a direct learning experience with this. And so it's both a blessing and at times can be a curse. So as the logic goes, if I'm in this situation and I do this, and then I think what will happen is I'll get that, and that's really good, right? So do you guys remember at the beginning of the presentation I went on for like 45 minutes about what are the numbers? Who said that? Raise your hand. All right, you're a millionaire. I'm sorry, I forgot the briefcase. I thought it's not here. So what are the numbers? 1, 2, 3. And you know what? This is funny. I mean, this is a sort of an exercise that's used within acceptance and commitment therapy, and at conferences, people will share this exercise. But from now on, probably for much of your life, if not for the rest of your life, if somebody says this, hey, do you guys know what the numbers are? You're probably going to be like, 1, 2, 3, because you had this learning experience. I have infected you all. Sorry about that. But it's a blessing. So you can have a situation where you need something and you need to solve a problem and you've never been in this situation before. And this process is going to help you. I mean, everybody's got not everybody, but most people have cell phones. I see the iPhone sitting on the table. 20 years ago, who would have thought? But somewhere, somebody conceptualized this, and they came up with it. It's part of this, is the process. So another example is, how many people have ever been in this room before? Raise your hand. Okay, how many people have ever been locked in this room before? And stuck? Okay, just in the service of this exercise, just yell out a couple of ways that you could think to try to get out of here if these two doors were locked. Go. Fire alarm. Go through that door, okay? What else?
Use my cell phone.
Use your cell phone, your iPhone, right? What else? Go, 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 go. Scream. What else? One more. Cry? Yeah, we could try to cry. Maybe somebody will hear us and they'll come running in. Okay, so in the matter of 10 or 15 seconds, we've come up with 4 or 5 viable ways to get out of this room. Nobody's ever been locked in here before. Nobody's ever been stuck. So how could you imagine how to do that? Well, it's a if this, then that. Well, that's good. It's this process of relational framing. So it's a blessing. Well, you know, this exam is going to be really difficult. And if those are the words, relational framing is, well, maybe I should study really hard and I'll do well on this exam. But what about if verbal relations are arbitrarily applicable and they can and will occur with anything? Well, find something in this room that you can't criticize. Are the tables laid out perfectly? Remember earlier I said, well, maybe we could move them a little bit. Well, you know, maybe if it was a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler, it's great, but you know, maybe there's something that's an ideal. Well, an ideal would be like, well, we'd have this grand cathedral and it'd be filled with thousands of people. They're just not in this room, they're out on the internet and they're watching. But you can worry about an imagined future. Like, well, you know, if the table wasn't there, then there would be, if there was a fire, we could get out a little bit easier. And, you know, all these things, our mind is going to take us to these places and ask these questions about ways to get out of situations or ways to improve our well-being if we're stuck in a situation. Well, what if this is the problem? What if you're losing hair on the top of your head and you've got a lot of hair on the side of your head? You know, you could do this. You could be optimistic and say, well, nobody's going to notice if I just take a marker and I rub it on the top of my head. Nah, I don't know. Maybe that's not going to work. Well, what about this? This is awesome. And actually, this one's better. This is what I call the comb-over effect, is when you're unwilling to let go of something that, whether you are going to do anything about it or not, it's gone. You can do the comb-over, but I don't know if you're really solving the problem. If you got a really long beard, you could try to do this, but I doubt anybody's going to do this, even though the dog is really super cute. Well, what about, is it a blessing if the words are, I can't stand this anxiety anymore? Well, maybe I should just drink. What about, they have weapons of mass destruction? Well, do whatever's necessary. Destroy them. Well, we have to stop the evil ones at all costs. We got to launch a war on terror. What do you mean there's going to be collateral damage? Who cares? Kill whoever's in the way. This is what we have to do. Okay, so how does this all apply to a painful, or awareness of a painful event like a trauma or some type of abuse? Just your awareness or just the experience of actually having this abuse is going to trigger aversive reactivity. Whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, it's going to trigger that. Later on, just the thinking about having that thought in your mind is going to trigger the memory, or describing it is going to trigger the memory and the aversive reaction. So if anybody has ever struggled with anything, you may not literally be struggling with it right now, but just thinking about it may bring up these physical reactions. Now, according to this relational frame theory, the thought triggering the reaction is no different than it actually happening. So even though it may be 5 or 10 or 15 or 40 years later, the mind doesn't see a difference between, yeah, that was 30 or 40 years ago, but it's happening right now as I think about this or as I talk about this. So this can be the context in which real human suffering occurs. And we want to do whatever it takes to stop this. And it can be at the extent of, what if the words are, I'm tired, so tired, but sleep doesn't come. My only rest sits on the table, waiting. I'm waiting to be saved, but I know that I can't. No explanations left, only action, the loaded silver gun on the table, my answer. All I have to do is pick it up and pull the trigger. What if those are the words? What if those are the place that our mind goes to tell us this is the only way to get out? Now, I've never met anybody who has been successful at this and come back to tell you what happens. When they're gone, they're gone. And we, as human beings, imagine, well, if they're gone, their pain must be gone. We don't know that. We may think that. We may have beliefs that are spiritual or religious that tell us, well, no, this is what happens when you go. But it's based on an assumption that that's true. Once you leave here, your pain is over. It's gone. I can't tell you that personally. I don't know the answer to that. But that's how this process works, is it's going to take you to a place of trying to figure out the answer at all costs. And it, for many people, leads to that, taking their own life. So we've developed a number of different therapies that try to target this experience of suffering. And they're referred to as third wave behavior therapies. They target the validity, the frequency, the content, and the form of the experience. They're referred also to as the contextual cognitive behavioral therapy. There's many examples: mindfulness-based stress reduction, dialectic behavior therapy, on. And acceptance and commitment therapy is one of these, which is the one I'm most familiar with. It's defined as a psychotherapy based on a relational approach to human language and cognition that uses acceptance and mindfulness processes and commitment and behavior change processes to create psychological flexibility. That's what we want. We want to help create the psychological flexibility so that you can have an experience and not have it control or influence your behavior in a way that takes you away from the things that are really important to you. And psychological flexibility is defined as a process that involves openly contacting experience in the present moment as a conscious human being and persisting or changing behavior based on what the situation affords and what your personal values are, things that matter to you. So if your pain continues, at the end of the day, what are you going to feel that you did that's best for you? What's the footprint that you're going to leave behind on this earth, whether you have pain or not? And if it's connected to what matters to you in your heart, that's deeply important in your value system, then you're going to leave a footprint that you feel good about, whether you have pain, anxiety, or not. That's what people remember us for, is what we have done. They may not remember you for, well, that anxious guy that stood up on the podium and gave a talk and da-da-da-da-da. Well, he gave the talk. That's what people remember. So simply stated, it's referred to as ACT, unlike cognitive behavioral therapy, which is CBT. It's referred to as ACT, is short for acceptance and commitment therapy. Accept what's happening that can't be controlled, choose the value and the direction that's important to you, and take action. This is actually really the one thing that I want you to take from this talk. If there's only one thing, remember, ACT is accept, choose, and take action. So defined, acceptance is an ongoing process of learning to live life in a way that is deeply meaningful, fully and completely based on value directions, even while aversive thoughts, sensations, emotions, or other experience continue to occur. It's a long-winded definition. So at the Chronic Pain Psychology Center, myself and a colleague, we came up with a treatment that's based on ACT, and we put this towards working with people who have chronic pain. And the treatment process starts with, I guess the primary goals I'll start with first. So the goals of putting this together were to support acceptance of unwanted private events which are out of the person's control, and to encourage commitment and action towards valued living in the presence of pain, whether it continues or not, so that a person can live effectively. That's the bottom line, is we want people to live their life the way that they want it to be, as best they can, deeply as it's connected to their values, whether or not unwanted stuff is happening. Okay? So the first thing to do is this, I don't know, this process called creative hopelessness. Now you might think, well, why would you want your clients to be hopeless? It's not so much that we want you to feel hopeless, we just want you to connect with the fact that whatever you've been doing, if it's not working, it's a problem. And we got to let go of the stuff that isn't working and try to find a different solution. Because if control isn't the solution, what are your options? Well, we have to come up with an option, an alternative. If it doesn't change, despite the fact that you've done X, Y, and Z, A, B, C, D, F, G, and on, well, maybe willingness is an approach. If you tried to push it away your whole life, or as long as you've had it, what if you were to bring it in and stop fighting it? What would happen? Remember, pain times resistance equals suffering. The more you fight it, the more you suffer. So that's what this process of creative hopelessness is about. We also introduce mindfulness, which is the practice of noticing without resistance in a non-judgmental way what your experiences are, and noticing what your mind says about those experiences. So you may say something like, oh, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, my alarm's going off, I don't want to get up, I want to stay in bed, it's warm, and I'm going to be sitting all day, my pain's going to be really bad, and that's going to be horrible. I don't want to do that. Well, okay, you don't have to, but your mind is telling you it's going to be horrible, and if you were to go to the conference and sit through the talks and listen and take as much as you can, you would leave with something. But if you listen to that thought that says it's going to be horrible and you can't do it, you won't be able to sustain it, there's nothing you can do about it, you might as well just stay in bed. Your life is going to look really different that day. So it's about non-judgmental, moment-to-moment awareness. I like to say a necessary prerequisite of intentional behavior change is conscious awareness. If you're going to change something in your life, you got to know what's going on. You got to know what's working and what's not working. And to be conscious about making behavior change, mindfulness, I think, is key. Diffusion is a process of bringing to light the limitations that language has. Our minds tell us certain things. Now, if maybe I can get a volunteer, just somebody raise their hand real quick to tell me in words how to walk. Would anybody be willing to try that? It's just going to take a second. Okay. Imagine that I don't have any vocabulary or anything. I don't understand how to do this. You got to tell me. What do I got to do? How do I going to walk from just 2 steps to the edge of the
Your right foot in front.
Okay, where's my right foot?
To the right of it.
To the right of my left foot. Where's my left foot?
Where you don't have your wedding ring.
What's a wedding?
The one in your finger.
What's a finger?
The one that has a nail that scratches your back.
What's my back? What's a nail? I don't know what
The one that itches.
The one that itches. Okay, so if I don't know the definition of all this stuff, it's hard. It's really quickly you see that language is limited. It doesn't give us, it's not the answer to everything. It's important. I understand. Thank you, everyone, really quick. Just an applause. I get it. Language is important, but it doesn't solve everything. If we deliteralize language through this process of diffusion, it becomes something different. So what are some of the things that come to mind? Just yell them out when you think about milk. White. What else? Cows. Ooh, does that come to mind? What else? Lactose. Cheese. Chocolate cake. Woo! You can't have chocolate cake without a tall glass of cold. What was that? Creamy. Okay, all this stuff in the image, right? Now we're going to do this little exercise together, the whole room. You're going to start with me, and you're going to stay on pace with me. Okay, I want you to keep all this stuff in your mind, the white, creamy, cold glass of milk with the chocolate cake, all that stuff. Keep it in your mind. Don't let it go anywhere. You guys ready? Okay, say it out loud. Milk. Okay, say it again. Milk. 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 With me. Milk. 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 milk, a little bit louder, milk, 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 louder, milk, 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 milk. Okay. Now catch your breath. What happened to the white, creamy, cow, moo, chocolate cake? What happened? It went away. And what did the sound that you heard, what was that like?
Milk.
It just was like the K and the M and everything blended. The milk, it became just sound. This word, milk. But when we have the pauses and the inflections, it becomes something different and it triggers this. But if a word is just a word, whether it's spoken or thought, it's just a word that has sound and that we have it associate with things. And we objectify language. We say stuff like, well, you know, you've got that committee, the pain committee, that says, you know, you can't really deal with that today. Or you've got the anxiety committee member that says, oh, no, you better be careful because there's going to be something going on over there, and that's not good. And so, you know, if we can identify this stuff as like, that's my committee member that's telling me, I don't know what I'm talking about. Or, there's no way to do this successfully. That's the committee member. The mind is telling you something. It's telling you something in a way to protect you. Like, you know, that thought of, well, you may not want to get out of bed today because it's going to be a hard day. There may be some truth to that. But it may also be really important to you to get up and get out of bed. And if you can identify it as the passenger on the bus that always gets up and says, hey, don't do that, well, it might be a little bit different experience to say, you know, that's my committee member telling me not to. And this is really important. So today I'm going to live my life in line with what says this is what matters. This committee member, you can either come along or you can stay behind. This bus is going to the conference. Okay? So acceptance, for after all, the best thing one can do when it rains is let it rain. How many people can control the weather? I don't know anybody that can. Maybe they're trying. I don't know. I heard about this conspiracy thing on the internet the other day. They're doing all this stuff. But anyway, that's a different story. You could always bring an umbrella. That might help. But what if, you know, you can't stop it from raining? You can only respond to the rain. Okay, so acceptance is openness to receive what is given in life without resistance or attempts to avoid or escape. I like that Cynthia read the definition from Webster's dictionary. The definition is to receive something that's being given. Doesn't say anything about liking it. Doesn't say anything about wanting it. It just says to receive it. So how many times have you gotten a gift that you're on the outside like, oh, that's so sweet, thank you. I love this. This is what I've always wanted. Oh, good, they're gone. Okay, I'll go this way. You can feel one thing, and you can say or do another thing. It doesn't mean that it always has to be in line, and it doesn't even mean that you're not being genuine. You can truly appreciate the gift because it's coming from this person who has intention of sharing with you something, and it's not necessarily what's inside the box, it's that you've been given something that was thoughtfully given by another person that's important to you. So what are the options? What are the choices? The direction that you go is based on this, on values. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. And there's a whole different, this is very limited list of things that people say, hey, what's important to you? They'll say stuff like, well, my family's important, my health is important, my friends are important, you know, my education, recreation, playing is important. Because playing is really good. It's fun. If you've ever tried to put M&Ms in a cup with chopsticks, that's super fun. But it's things that are important to you, and they don't have to be shared values by anybody else. Although society will tell you, hey, you know what, the most important thing is this. And everybody should have this in their driveway because it's the coolest, greatest car ever. And you want to be a cool, great person. So if I have this, then I have that, well, then that's this, and that's good, and I want that. And that's how it all works. But when we put all this stuff aside and we say, what really matters to us? Values are the things that are going to guide us. And values are going to tell you the place to go every day and be more genuine and honest than your pain is or your anxiety is. That's going to tell you what it wants. And it's going to tell you where to go that's going to try to make it a little bit quieter. If your pain starts to erupt in a big yelling, screaming, you know, long-winded thing about no, 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 don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. it's self-serving. It doesn't want you to experience that. That's what the mind is trying to do, is to solve this problem. But this stuff is never going to lie to you. If it's important to you, do it. Find a way to do it. Find a way to connect to it. Maybe you've done something your whole life one way, and because pain has now showed up, you have to change how you do it. This is bringing the umbrella when it starts to rain. You know, how many people have been to Las Vegas or to a casino? Has anyone played blackjack? It's like, yeah. You get the cards dealt to you, and you say, dealer, could I get some different cards? I don't really like these ones, or not. I like the aces and the tens. They're going to look at you and laugh and think you're joking, but if you're adamant and serious, they're going to kick you out of the casino. You can't ask for new cards. You get the cards you're dealt. You have to play the cards. And how you play them determines whether or not you get blackjack or not. If you say, you know what, I'm not going to hit on this, that's your choice. If you want to hit, that's your choice too. The outcome is not what you control. You control the process. And connecting to your values helps take you in the direction that at the end of the day you can look back and say, this is what matters to me. And the way that you have to change what you've done based on what you've been dealt in your life, that's taking action and being realistic and thinking, okay, maybe I can't be a football player the way that I used to play. And that's something that was really important to me, recreation, and I wanted to play football. Well, that's gone. But what was it about football that was important to you? Well, I like the sportsmanship. I like the interacting with people. That stuff was really great. Well, so you're going to have to connect with that value differently. And that's the change that is necessary in order to reduce suffering so that you can live your life in a more valued way. So committed action in this treatment process is, I like this quote by Yoda. Have you guys ever seen The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi? So do or do not. There is no try. And this is the literal thing of, and I do this in therapy, believe it or not, but not with these chairs. These are really high. Okay, so I'm going to do this real quick. So if I jump off this stage onto the floor, the form of that, how different is that from me jumping off this sack of paper? What's different about it? The height, right? This one is maybe 1.5 feet. This one is about 1.5 millimeters. If I jump, I get to choose how high do I jump. That's pretty high. I'm not ready for that. But I'll tell you what, I'll jump off this. This isn't jumping. No? If jump is a jump. So you either jump or you don't. So we do that in therapy to kind of, well, it's fun for me because I get to like do stuff. But the experience is key. I don't know where they found this picture of me from my high school basketball days, but you have to have experience. And Michael Jordan is quoted for saying you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's true. If you listen to the committee member that says stay in bed, don't get out, it's going to be a miserable day, you're probably going to get what you thought. But if you take your shot, you don't know what's going to happen. You might make it, you might not. You might have a good experience, you might not. The only way to find out is to experience it. So now I need 2 volunteers, because we're going to do some shooting, taking of shots, not that shooting. We're going to actually use the M&Ms and 2 cups that were provided in our last play, and we're going to do this demonstration. So can I get 2 volunteers who want to see if they can make some shots here? Raise your hand. Okay, right here. 1 more, and you. Okay, come on up. Big hand, big hand. These are your M&Ms. What's your name? Esther. Okay, this is Rosie, and this is Esther. Another big hand of applause. Okay. Rosie is going to take on the, I guess, the role of, I'm going to believe my thoughts, and whatever my thoughts tell me are true, and that's what you're going to do. And that's what you're going to do. And Esther is going to take on the role of, you're going to do what's important to you, regardless of what your thoughts are. Okay? Now, what do you all think the chances are of me making this shot?
100%. 100%.
100%. All right. At least for that trial, you're right. What about from here?
Maybe 50.
90%?
50.
50? Oh, I made it. Okay. Whatever. The outcome was what it was. What are some things, if you step back to the table right there, perfect, and you step back right over there, okay, perfect. What are the chances that Rosie's going to make a shot in this cup here?
10%.
10%? Okay. What are some thoughts you have about making this? If you make it, you're going to get the $1 million that's behind the podium.
I need to see the catch, then that would be ready.
But if you miss, you got to get up on stage and do a jig or something. Okay. So, what are some thoughts that you have about making that shot?
100%.
Really, you're confident? Really? Okay. Go back there. I want you to get far, far, far away where you're not so sure. Okay, right there's good. What are your thoughts now? Do you think you can make that?
50%.
All right, 50%. Why 50%?
Because I'm thinking now that, hey, maybe not, because that thing is too narrow.
Yeah, that thing
And
is
I'm
narrow. That
kinda
thing's
too
kind of far. Whoa, I don't know. That's the committee member saying you're not going to make it. You're not that skilled. You're not like me right there in high school. Okay, Esther, what are the chances you're going to make this shot from where you are? 100%. Maybe. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's just. Rosie, you stay there. Wait. Don't do anything. Esther, shoot. Just one. That's pretty good. It was close. So it's not 100%. So what are the chances now?
Say about
80%. So what's the 20% in your mind telling you why you won't make it?
Because it's a little narrow and,
Sort of similar to Rosie. It's got the same committee member. You guys are really similar. Okay. So let's just say that Rosie had a little bit more intensely negative, I can't make this. You know what? It's just too far. You know what, it's going to actually take a lot of effort, and I don't know. I'm not really sure if I want to do that. And Esther, let's just say that you also had the same thoughts. Like, it's kind of far, it's kind of narrow, and I don't know, it's a lot of work to be doing on a Friday morning. But let's embrace this is important. This is you moving towards your own education, your own development as a human being, as a person. And like, you know what, throwing that M&M, whether it makes it or not, that's not your goal. Your goal is to take the shot, is to have the experience, is to live, is to be alive, right? Yeah, that's what you're good about. And Rosie, you're not going to do that because you're afraid if you miss, you're going to get up here and do a jig. And that's, you know, look at all these people are going to be like, whoa, look at her. And it's on the internet too. Okay. So, on 3, you guys are going to take your shot, okay? 1, 2, wait, not Rosie, just Esther. 1, 2, 3. Try again. Could we say that's 1, 2, that's 3 you've taken. Take one more. 4. Okay. What were the odds or the chances that Esther was going to make a shot? We don't know. She didn't make one. We got to do it like 100 or 1,000 times to really come up. But did she have a greater chance of making the shot than Rosie?
Yes.
Why?
She's closer.
Okay. Let's go back here. Get real far. All right, you guys put on helmets. She's going to throw an M&M. So now they're the same distance. Go a little bit further back. That's good. Okay, now throw another M&M. Try to make it in this cup. Okay. So now that argument we've taken off the table. So she's further away. What did she have a greater chance of making this M&M in the cup than Rosie?
No.
No?
Yes.
Why? Because she took the shot. She threw it. You could take a fistful of M&Ms and just throw it like that, blindfolded. You have a greater chance of making it than if you stand over there and say, I can't make this. There's no way I can do this. So that's the exercise, taking shots. Big hand for Rosie and Esther. You guys can keep the M&M.
jig.
She wants me to do the jig.
Oh, you less? No, Jake. Okay, so the treatment process, I don't know, what's our timeline?
We got about 5 more minutes.
Okay, good. So I'm using all this time very effectively. Okay, so the treatment process, there's no order in which this happens. You don't have to wait to the 4th session to jump off a chair. You don't have to wait to the 12th session to diffuse and deliteralize language. It's about the process. And it's a constant flow. As a therapist, going through the mindfulness processes, the acceptance and diffusion processes, and the value and behavior or commitment change processes. It's always flowing back and forth at all times in order to help the person live more flexibly and more in line with their values. So, in summary, suffering is common, and I think everybody in this room has probably struggled with something. If not pain, something else. And maybe for years, maybe since you were just 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And you've carried it with you and you've struggled with it for a long, long time. And I think that this is not an experience that's unique to men or to women. I think it's a human experience, and we all are in this together. There's nobody immune to it. But ACT is a treatment approach to try to loosen the grip, so to help people live more effectively, and it's applied to many different problems. Not just chronic pain, but there's a lot of data that shows that it is, in fact, effective for people who have chronic pain. At least as effective as cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, has been the gold standard for psychological treatment for chronic pain for a long time. So I want to just say one more thing to just kind of end the talk. We're all in this together. So, you know, here I am, I'm the speaker, I'm giving this talk, and you think, well, that guy probably doesn't struggle with anything. He's a psychologist. Well, we all do, whether it's the Batman action figure with spring-loaded grappling hook, or this is my new Batman action figure with spring-loaded grappling hook. This is my daughter, who's now 4.5 years old. And there is a quote that I heard relatively recently. I think it's a proverb or something. It says something like, in order to experience the beauty of the rose, you have to be willing to feel the thorn. And, you know, look at, this is a precious being, and we all have precious beings in our lives. And in order to parent and to be there present, it's hard. It's really hard work. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most rewarding thing I've ever done. But it's scary, because if you can have this type of emotion, of love, if you have it one minute, what's possible? It's gone the next. But you have to be present and with it at all times, no matter what. And let that guide you, and not the fear that it will be gone. Because one day it will be. I mean, that's just something we can't prevent. But you get to decide how you choose to live your life, moment to moment, day after day. And if you do that in line with what matters, and not in line with what the mind is telling you out of fear or out of shame or guilt of something you should have done or didn't do or could have done or whatever, you'll connect more deeply and feel, I think, more genuinely satisfied with the life that you're living and the life that you've been given. But you have an option to maximize that. So thank you all very much. I appreciate your time and attention.